Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good day to you, and welcome to Bayou Sports Talk, baby. Bonjour, bonsoir. Guys, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Kay, your moderator, and we have some great panelists before you. Holla at them, coach.
It's me, Coach 67 Sports TV. Shout out to the awesome and amazing LDBC, Lions Den Boston community. Shout out to the greatest university in the world, the Southern University, home of the mighty Jaguars. Everybody sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. We looking forward to giving y'all a great show today. Yeah, dig.
All right, the baby of the bunch. Holla at them, Ray.
What's up? Good evening, y'all. We here, we ready to get these discussion topics rolling. So let's get on the roll. Everybody get your roll on.
All right, guys, you know how we get started. We started off with some boxing. Ray, why don't you start us off today? What are your thoughts about what's to come, and are there some cards that you're looking forward to?
In 2 weeks to come, as far as boxing news, we got the how do I want to term this fight, this revenue fight, that's what I'm gonna call it, with Francis Ngannou and Anthony Joshua. I'll get I know it's like 2 weeks out, and I know when the Saturday of the fight comes, we gonna give our predictions again. But I'm predicting that Francis Ngannou will lose, by unanimous decision. You know, Francis Ngannou did look good against Tyson Fury, but let's be real. Everybody underestimated Francis Ngannou. I ain't nobody thought Francis Ngannou was gonna look that good. So Anthony Joshua not gonna, underestimate Ngannou, and he's gonna come out there and box him just like any other boxing match. And I feel like he's gonna, not embarrass Francis Ngannou, but he's gonna do to Francis Ngannou what everybody thought Tyson Fury was gonna do to him. So I just want to speak on that since that's like 2 weeks away. Also, I was talking to Coach behind the scenes about, Frank Martin and Javante Davis just signed a contract, to box each other, to fight each other. I'm hoping, is like legit, and it stands firm, and you know what I'm saying, like, because in the boxing world, like, you'll see speculations or like a contract has been signed for these two fighters to fight, and then all of a sudden it just dwindles away or something, like almost like it never happened. So Coach was saying, he, got to see it to believe it. When the fight actually takes place, so when he will believe it. Me, I'm being optimistic about it. That this fight will happen. And but yeah, that's the two things as far as boxing news that I wanted to talk about, and two things that that was on my mind. But yeah, I'm very interested in the Javante Davis Frank Martin fight. That's going to be a very interesting fight. I feel like there'll be some real competition for Javante Davis. Not saying that Ryan Garcia wasn't any real competition, but so I'm very eager, to see that fight. Also, coming up, eventually in the near future, we got Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. So, I'm pretty sure we've talked about that fight. That upcoming fight in past episodes. But yeah, that's it.
All right, coach, what are your thoughts?
well, first and foremost, to kind of address what he said in terms of Tank. That's another thing too. We kind of spoke on it briefly, but Tank converted to Islam. So in many instances, when you get these boxing reports, some people call him by his new name, what is Abdul Wahid, and then others still call him Javante Davis. So I have not heard him officially like say, "Hey, don't call me Javante Davis." Kind of like Muhammad Ali did with Cassius Clay. At no point did he officially say, "Hey, I don't want y'all to call me by my slave name or anything like that." So in most instances, you hear people call him Tank still or Javante Davis. So until there's like some type of formal, like, "Hey, don't call me Javante Davis," I'm gonna keep it 100. He's still Javante Davis to me. Now, it's not up to me to say whether he's legitimately a Muslim or he is legitimately converted to Islam or not. That's not my place to speak on that. It's not my place to say that. However, I have not heard him on any public platform like officially say, "Hey, I'm Abdul Wahid. Don't call me Javante Davis." So most of the time, I see people call him Javante Davis. So just so there's no confusion, I'm just gonna say Tank. Raymond is right, kind of behind the scenes. Him and I talked about, it's been a lot of like rumors and speculation in terms of Tank Davis uh, potentially fighting Frank the Ghost Martin. I think that's going to be an excellent matchup if they actually do fight. It seems like it's a strong possibility that could be an actual fight that's going to happen because I see so many sources basically regurgitating that information. So it seems as if more than likely it's going to happen. But like I was telling Raymond, the reason why I'm such a skeptic, it's not that I want to be a pessimistic individual, but too many times in the sport of boxing, like we were promised fights. One fighter said he was going to fight the other fighter, and it never came to fruition. Just to kind of tie this boxing topic into another boxing topic. Basically, David Benavidez, it's kind of official. He's going to move up from super middleweight to light heavyweight because Canelo Alvarez basically ducked him for a few years now at this point. So the point I'm trying to make is, even though at no point did Canelo actually say, I mean, he made it clear, he said he wasn't going to fight David Benavidez, and the excuse he used, because, Canelo can make an infinite amount of excuses and not ever be held accountable for his actions. But basically, he said that I'm a Mexican fighter. I'm not going to fight any more Mexicans. Just imagine if Devin Haney said, I'm not going to fight any more black fighters. Like, basically, he would get all kind of slander, all kind of hate. But with that being said, so since he ducked David Benavidez so much, David Benavidez is moving up to the light heavyweight division. And since the WBC basically gave him a pass to duck David Benavidez, essentially when Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, when they fight each other for undisputed, basically he's probably going to get he's going to get the first crack at the undisputed champion at the light heavyweight division. For them, they're going to accommodate him for them allowing Canelo, who some people call the face of boxing. I don't think he is. I think he's the face of ducking more than anything. They're going to allow Benavidez to fight the winner in that undisputed fight. But the point I'm trying to make is this is a fight we wanted, but we never got. So that's why when you see a situation like Frank Martin and Tank, I'm skeptical because as a boxing fan, I've gotten so many fights that I wanted to see like pulled from under us. They pulled the rug from under us. Or basically they just didn't give us the fight we wanted. Whether it's a fight, the magnitude of Tank versus Devin the Dream Haney, or whether it's Devin the Dream Haney versus Shakur Stevenson, Tank versus Shakur Stevenson. Like those are fights that myself as a boxing fan I want. Or the fight I wanted to see the most when they had opportunity to fight for undisputed is Anthony Joshua fighting the Bronze Bomber, my favorite fighter, Bronze Bomber Deontay Wilder. And basically they let him duck and duck and duck and duck. So it's just to a point now, as a boxing fan, I want to see the best fight the best. And, in the words of our brother, best fight the best. We want the best fighters to fight the best fighters. So that's all it is. That's why I'm such a skeptic, Raymond. It's not that I'm trying to be pessimistic, but I want to see the best fighters fight the best fighters. And they also talked about, Edgar Berlanga, him potentially fighting a fight, I think, in June, if I'm not mistaken. So really outside of the Anthony Joshua and Frank Martin and Tank Davis and Edgar Berlanga, except for those three things, it's just a lot of speculation more than anything in the sport of boxing. There's no real set opponent for Shakur Stevenson coming up. There's no set opponent for Terrence Bud Crawford. Last week we talked about Errol Spence Jr., whether he was going to either retire or whether he was going to potentially fight Canelo. We don't know what direction Canelo is going to go in. Now, he said he wasn't going to fight any more Mexican fighters, but now there's a possibility he could fight Jaime Munguia. They talked about him fighting Errol Spence Jr. Evidently, he turned on a Terrence Bud Crawford fight. He wants no smoke with David Benavidez. So even someone like Canelo Alvarez, who's supposed to be the face of boxing, he's not trying to fight the best possible competition. And that's the biggest issue we have with the sport of boxing. That's why you have, people like, Jake Paul and Logan Paul who could come in the sport of boxing and command more money than some of the top fighters in the sport of boxing. That's the reason being. And you can't point the finger at one in a particular entity. You got to point the finger at the promoters. You got to point the finger at the networks. You have to point the finger at the sanctioning bodies. You have to point the finger at the fighters. But more than anything, you have to point the finger at the fans for supporting one fighter more than supporting the sport of boxing, because you've had so many, like, for example, Anthony Joshua fans that constantly gave Anthony Joshua pass after pass after pass for ducking Deontay Wilder. All of these Tank fans that constantly give Tank a pass for constantly ducking Devin Haney. So in the sport of boxing, the reason why it's in the state and the condition it is in, that's part of the reason why, like, I converted my boxing channel to a Southern University channel, because truthfully speaking, even though we try to cover a variety of different sports, my topic, area of expertise is mostly Southern, and truthfully speaking, the videos that I would drop in the boxing videos was getting 2 views, 3 views, 5 views, whereas Southern University, videos, 100 views, 500 views, 600 views, 200 views. So that's the reason why, I pivoted and went more towards Southern University, because the sport of boxing, unless you're talking about certain fighters, like maybe like a Canelo or maybe Monster Inoue, unless you're talking about certain fighters that you're not getting the traction you really deserve. And then as a boxing fan, I just been tired of the nonsense in the sport of boxing. So that's the reason why, we touch on boxing at the start of the show, and then we just keep it pushing into all other sports.
Well, okay, guys, let's move on to the NBA, the Pelicans, guys. My Pelicans. Coach, start us off. Tell me, what are your thoughts about their loss to Miami and their and where they're going? What are your thoughts? What do you think will help them go to the next level?
Well, before the game with the Miami Heat, they had won like 8 of their last 9 games. Plus, they were like in a 5 spot in the West. So really, they were looking up. And to add on top of that, the fact that, they're coming off the All-Star break. So it wasn't really a big issue. Just the fact that they lost, but it's the fact that they lost. And you had a huge melee. I don't know if y'all saw that, but, some of the Pelicans fans and some of the Pelicans players and some of the Heat fans, some of the Heat players, some of the Pelican players and Heat players, they got into it. It was a bit of a melee. Other people were, some of the fans were like throwing stuff, and, it just was a huge scene. So I think more than anything, to go to the next level, I think the Pelicans are in a good position. But I think more than anything, I think that right time of year, like in another month and a half, that's the time of year you want to be clicking on all cylinders going into the playoffs. And you want to avoid the play-in tournament. But more than anything, you want to avoid certain teams in the playoffs. You want to avoid the Clippers. You want to avoid the Denver Nuggets. So you want to avoid certain teams, and you want to avoid the playoff tournament. The play-in tournament also. So as long as you're in the top 5 And in addition to that, you can avoid the Denver Nuggets. You can avoid the LA Clippers, and you could play a team like maybe the Sacramento Kings or any other team. Maybe even if you could avoid a healthy Phoenix Suns team, I think the Pelicans are going to be all right. I don't think it's anything to be alarmed about, but more than anything, the melee, is kind of what I was pointing at more than anything.
Okay, Ray, what are your thoughts?
The positive thing I found with the melee goes to show you how much this team is riding behind Zion Williamson. So that's like they was really the die. They was stepping in. Like, you know what I'm saying? They like, nah. And like initially, I don't think Kevin Love really wanted to, like, the way Zion fell when Kevin Love grabbed him. I think he just wanted to grab Zion to stop him from dunking. That was it. Like Zion falling, I think that was a mistake. But like, so I felt like it kind of escalated way past what it really was. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, Kevin Love did a Ron Artest or Draymond Green and just kicked Zion in the nuts or something, or like elbowed him in the ear like they in the UFC or something. But he just grabbed him to stop him from dunking, and he just so happened to fall. But it goes to show you how much they're riding behind Zion. Of course, obviously I seen that clip, clip kind of went viral, but I didn't watch the game. Um the game before that, of course they blew out Houston, which was kind of, it's kind of expected, but this past game was more of a test. Please inform me. I don't think I know, but is Brandon Ingram hurt or something? I noticed he didn't play the past two games.
Okay, I'm unsure if he is hurt, but we need him. We definitely need him as a backbone. He is a great player. Um, but what are your thoughts, Ray? I'm gonna start with you. For the Pelicans moving forward, well, first let's say, how do you think they're going to end the season? Do you think they would at least potentially, I have so much hope for the Pelicans, but do you foresee them even making the playoffs? Or
Yeah, I got the Pelicans. I predict they're gonna finish as a top five team in the West and not have to play in the playing tournament. I'm really bagging on them playing, the Mavericks in the playoffs, so I could, catch a couple of those games, um, or catch like one of those games. But yeah, I definitely got the Pelicans finishing top five in the West, and all the sports media outlets have been saying this for the past couple of years. Us as fans, we've been waiting to see this come to fruition. The Pelicans is that team you do not want to see in the playoffs because how young and how deep their roster is. But it's like last year they didn't make the playoffs, and it's like this year, Zion looks like he's not look like Zion going to play a full season this year, So Stephen A. Smith and all those guys keep, adding fuel to the fire for Zion Williamson to stay motivated, for him to keep playing and stop eating burgers and start eating granola bars and stuff like that. But I'm not trying to joke on his size or anything like that. I feel like, all the stuff in the media did fuel him this year, so I hope he continues to stay healthy. And and we become that team that teams in the playoffs don't want to play, you know. But yeah, I definitely have the Pelicans finishing top five in the West.
okay, coach, what are your thoughts? And to let Ray know, yes, Ingram is out with the illness, so he won't be playing against the Heat on Friday. So, coach, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, truthfully speaking, I agree with Raymond. Now, if this were the Saints, I don't think I would be as optimistic. However, when it comes to the Pelicans, I think Zion is going to stay healthy this particular season. I think Brandon Ingram, even though whether we acknowledge it or not, he is just as injury prone as Zion. I think he's going to get healthy at the right time of year. I think they will finish in the top five, like Raymond said. I think they're gonna avoid the play-in tournament, and then after that, I think they're gonna go into the playoffs. I think they're gonna play maybe a team like the Sacramento Kings in the first round. I think they're gonna get out the first round. Then I think they're gonna go on a little run. I'm not gonna say they're gonna win the championship or anything like that, but I think it's gonna be the right step. I think it's gonna be a good step in the right direction in terms of them being the team that they could potentially be down the line. And I think it's gonna give them some good experience in terms of, I want to phrase this properly. I think it's gonna give them some good experience in the context of eventually they're gonna be the championship team that we expect them to be. So I think they're moving in the right direction. I think they're playing well. I think they're gonna play even better at the right time of season. I think they're gonna click on all cylinders, and I think they're gonna make a nice, decent playoff run.
Guys, I want to ask you this question, and I'm going to start with you, Coach. What are your thoughts about Steve Kerr making NBA history, reporting the highest paid coach in the NBA? What are your thoughts?
Truthfully speaking, this might be a controversial take, but if he wasn't white, he wouldn't be in the position he's in. Because let's be truthfully speaking, Mark Jackson set up the Golden State Warriors to be in the position they were in for them to go on a championship run. The same way Tony Dungy set up the Bucks and John Gruden got the credit. I feel it's the same situation here where Mark Jackson set up the Golden State Warriors. He did an excellent job of coaching up Steph and coaching up Clay and grooming them. And of course, Jerry West was the GM. He kind of pulled all the strings. But more than anything, I think it's just a situation where he's getting all of this praise and he's getting all these accolades and everything. But more than anything, I feel like Mark Jackson set everything up. Steve Kerr's getting all the credit. And then after that point, they blackballed Mark Jackson. And he's been ostracized in terms of he really can't get a job in the league. And then the networks, they don't want to hire him. So as a result, he's partnered up with Cameron and Mace, and he's working with them right now. So, I'm glad he's getting his money, but more than anything, I feel like we should be talking about Mark Jackson in this particular situation instead of Steve Kerr. And I know it's going to be a controversial thing. I know a lot of individuals are going to be like, well, Coach, you remember the LDPC and blah, 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 y'all a bunch of race baiters. But I'm keeping it real. I'm telling it like it is from my perspective. It should be Mark Jackson in that situation instead of Steve Kerr. Now, I know people are going to say, well, hey, Steve Kerr did take the offense to the next level. Cool. But I don't feel like in this situation, Mark Jackson got the respect he really deserved as far as I'm concerned.
Ray, what are your thoughts?
Um, I mean, I don't know, bro. Like, I try my best not to I try my best not to, man, like, like I don't want to have opinions on how much somebody else make and stuff like that. Cause like sometimes it could come off like you're hating on a person's pockets, even though I know that's not what it is, but it's like, but as far as him getting all the glory and stuff for the Golden State Warriors and like, I don't know. It's like for me, it's like that's who I always kind of like noticed. Like he was the head coach, you know what I'm saying? Like of those championship teams. And it's not like Steve Kerr wasn't an excellent 3-point shooter himself when he was, with the Bulls, getting punched up by Michael Jordan. He was shooting threes too. So I feel like he deserves some credibility. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he just it's not like he just walked into a perfect situation. I mean, he could have walked into a perfect situation, but he still had to coach them. He still had to go through the fire with that team, if you know what I'm saying. So, And in some positions, coaches do walk into a good situation. It's like some coaches, like one coach will leave and the team will still be good, and they walk into a locker room that has a bunch of all-star players, but they still got to coach that team and whatnot and stuff. I mean, it's Steve Kerr, so I feel like he got the resume, he got the championships, to I, what I'm trying to say is I feel like he earned this money. Just me, I personally felt like he earned his money. And it's like, tell me what current coach in the NBA got more rings than him as a coach, and not even just overall, because he got rings as a coach and a player too.
Okay, guys, the next thing I want to ask you about, what do you think about the Spurs rookie Victor Wembanyama? Uh,
Wimbiana.
okay, making history, being the first rookie, and he's the 15th player in the NBA to make the 5 for 5. Ray, tell me what your thoughts.
Wait, say that again.
Victor for the Spurs,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
he broke the record and he became the first rookie to do a 5 for 5.
What's a 5 for 5?
Oh,
Uh,
he I'm sorry. He has
quadruple.
5 rebounds, five I mean no, he had 5 steals, 5 blocks. So so that is, 5 and 5, but he did 27 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, for and that was done. He is just aged 20 years old. And that he only played, he also did it in 31 minutes. So in 31 minutes of the game, he did all of that. So what are your thoughts? Do you think he is going to be one of those LeBron James of the next incoming players, or do you think he will be like that Jordan, or do you think he just broke that ceiling for someone else to become that next individual? What are your thoughts?
Um. So, he broke a record for getting 5 steals and 5 blocks, basically.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
He made history, and
yeah,
because there was no rookie that did
yeah.
that, and he is the 15th player in the NBA to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of them records that I feel like nobody cares about. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how you starting to see all these analytic records. Like Patrick Mahomes is the first quarterback to complete 5 passes on third downs that are longer than 10 yards. It's like what? So I'm like, it's not like he scored the most points in a game as a rookie. It's not like he got the most triple doubles in a season as a rookie. I'm like, okay, I didn't even know that was a thing to get like. I didn't even think that he was the first rookie to ever get 5 blocks and 5 steals in one game. I feel like I don't think that record was too big of a deal. I mean that record won't solidify anything. I feel like somebody like Trey Murphy could come off the bench and do something like that, or like some rookie or something like that could, do that. I don't think anything like that will solidify him as like, you know, the next. You know what I'm saying? Um, I mean, all of his hype comes from his height, and he how tall he is. I think he's like 7'4", and he could post up and he could shoot threes and do all this stuff like that. I feel like stuff like that gives him more hype rather than like just the stats. If you like 7'4", you're supposed to get like 5 blocks. Know what I'm saying? The steals might be more impressive, but the way steals work in the NBA, somebody could poke the ball out, and if you just in the right area to get the ball, you get credited with the steal. So but me, honestly, to be honest, I don't think that record really solidifies anything, or that record is like too important. I wouldn't get all riled up about Wimbiana based off of that record. Now, Wimbiana is a phenomenal player, got, phenomenal genetics to do like 7'4" and could dribble almost like James Harden. Almost, not quite, but almost like James Harden. But yeah, that's kind of how I view that.
Before we get to you, Coach, let's shout out Relaxing Calm Rain. Let's shout out Motivation to Be a Millionaire. Let's shout out Jared O11 Green. And let's shout out Daddy Daughter Time. Thank y'all for tuning in. And any other individual or family member that has shout out and tuned in, we want to show our love to you. Thank you. Coach, what are your thoughts?
Well, before I give my take on it, shout out to the LDBC family that's been coming through, supporting, showing love, so on and so forth. Just everybody that's been rocking with us since day one. We appreciate y'all. That's first and foremost. Second of all, like Nate and Nate would say, and for those individuals that remember, at one point, Kay, she was under the weather one weekend, and Nate and Nate was our guest host for that particular episode. If you have not done so, go check her out on her channel. But like Nate and Nate would say, it's a not sandwich. Who cares? It's not, like Raymond was saying, it's not a record that means anything in the grand scheme of things. Now, don't get me wrong. I think he could be like a generational talent, the likes of maybe someone like LeBron or whoever the case may be. But in the grand scheme of things, that record means nothing. And I mean, at the end of the day, I hate to say it, but it's no big deal. So
Okay, guys. Well, let's move on.
hold
And
hold up, Kay. Before we move on, real quick, like a couple things I want to point out. First and foremost, but leading up to the All-Star break, basically a lot of the Milwaukee Bucks fans, they were not happy with Damian Lillard's performance to this point in the season. Basically a lot of people felt like it was a mistake trading for Damian Lillard. Maybe they did. Maybe he left Portland too late in his career. They feel like maybe he's faded at this point in his career. Maybe keeping Drew Holiday would have been a better fit. Dame time is really it hasn't been what they thought it was going to be. So that's one thing I want to point out. In addition to that, recently, like around All-Star Weekend, they asked him like who he thought was his, top five, who he thought was the top five best players in the league. And he left Giannis out of that. So, a lot of people have been making a big deal about that. I think as long as they get clicking on all cylinders and they playing well at the right time of year, I don't think it really matters. But, that's one thing I kind of want to bring up before we transition to the next topic.
I'm sorry, guys. I was trying to unmute myself. So let's move on to what has seemed to be a great time to do things. Open discussion. I love open discussion. And so, guys, we have some things we need to get into. I noticed, and this is, I hate to say it like this, but this is my team. Coach Prime has really been giving me something to look forward to towards Colorado. But I've noticed that Colorado has lost another coach. And before we move on, let me stop and give Colorado our prayers and letting them know that we are with them, because they lost one of their former football players. He passed away this week past, and his name is Clyde Sorrell. If I'm pronouncing it right, I'm so sorry if I'm not. We just want to let you know our prayers are with you all and our condolences. So with that being said, Colorado did lose another Coach Prime released him, and he is no longer. It's Bishop Thomas was dismissed. So I know he needs to maybe get rid of some of those pieces that may not be moving as smooth as he would like them to, but it just seems like a lot of things may not be moving in the direction, because I'm like, it's not even the second year yet, and you're getting rid of another coach. What do you foresee for the Colorado, Ray? Let's start with you.
Oh, so me, how do I see Colorado? Oh man, it's kind of like, besides the subject, coach probably might care about this, but they remaking NCAA again, the video game. And the reason I pull NCAA up is because they just released a couple of the ratings for the players that will be in the NCAA game. And of course, Shadur Sanders, come on, man, Travis Hunter, they're gonna be in the game. They got Shadur at a 95 and Travis Hunter at a 97 overall, which is extremely high. So the reason I pull that up is because, man, look, bro, you got, once again, two potential Heisman Trophy candidates on your team that got like very high potential around them. But man, with all that talent you have on your team, and I know Deion Sanders talked about getting the trenches together, like getting big offensive linemen and defensive linemen. How important that is. Shadur can't really do what he do unless he get protection. Um, a lot of people have high expectations for him, which, of course, you could tell by their ratings on the NCAA game that, they're expecting them to be phenomenal this year. But me, I don't really expect too much from them. Last year they only won what, 3 or 4 games. I know they didn't make a bowl.
No, Colorado won 6 games, if I'm not mistaken.
They won 6. Oh,
I think so, but I will double check while you're talking.
but I know Colorado didn't make a bowl game this year. I kind of do expect them to make a bowl game. Get up to like maybe 7 wins and stuff like that. But I don't think they're gonna win the Pac-12 conference or anything like that. I feel like the next step for them is to win a bowl game, and that's it. Possibly, Siddur could win the Heisman, but if I had to guess, if somebody was going to win the Heisman from Colorado, it would definitely be Travis Hunter. Um, you know, him playing both sides of the ball, but I don't have high expectations for Colorado this year. You know, my main focus is on the SEC and the Big Ten. That's it.
Okay, Coach. What are your thoughts? Because I see here overall, Ray, Colorado won 4 and lost 8. Okay, so I'm sorry. This has to be wrong. It said 4 and 8 overall. And they won 2. So yeah, they only won 2 on the at home, and won 2 away. Coach, what are your thoughts about Colorado and Coach Prime releasing another coach?
Well, first and foremost, it kind of ties into what we've been saying from a coaching standpoint. You need continuity and chemistry. You cannot just constantly let players go, or you can't constantly let coaches go year in and year out and maintain that same continuity chemistry. From a coaching standpoint, you need to keep the same coaches in place. I mean, you may tweak something here, you may tweak something there, but you just can't constantly get a new batch of coaches every year. You understand what I'm saying? So at some point, like Coach Prime, I don't know what the situation is. I understand, it's a war of attrition. You're going to have some turnover at some point, but you just can't constantly get rid of coaches year in and year out. You have to maintain some chemistry. And just to kind of real briefly and real quick to kind of touch on what Raymond was talking about NCAA. I don't know if y'all can see this, but it's a HBCU. They say if they came out with this, it has Southern Southern on the cover. You know, they were saying if they ever came out with an HBCU edition of NCAA, you know, a lot of individuals say they would purchase, you know, if it was, you know, strictly catered to the HBCU schools like Southern, like Jackson State, like Grambling, you know, Howard, Hampton, those type of schools. You know, they say they would be all for it. Of course, we know more than likely that won't happen.
To cut not to cut you off, coach, but they say they're gonna have the SCS schools on there too. They didn't say which schools they're gonna eventually put on the game, but they did say, they're gonna have the FCS schools, in the game. Not on the release of the game. It's gonna be like, probably through like a DLC or like a software update. But they say they do plan on putting the FCS schools up there. Now I
Yeah,
don't know FCS schools though.
yeah. Well, that was the thing they were saying. I think the people that put this on X, which is formerly known as Twitter, basically what they were saying is, you know, they wanted kind of like a HBCU version, a HBCU edition of it. And if they did that, then hey, they'll be all for it. But like I said, let's just be realistic. More than likely, that won't happen. But in terms of, you know, speaking of HBCUs, this, that, and the third, you know, today for me, you know, as a content creator, it was a big day from the standpoint of, you know, it was difficult in terms of which way I would go. Well, first we had the Legacy Bowl today. It's going to be at 3 p.m. And, you know, basically the Legacy Bowl for those individuals, it's kind of like the Senior Bowl for the HBCU players. And, you know, it's coming on today at 3 p.m. And, you know, it's a big deal for, especially for players like, you know, August Petrie III, who is a good wide receiver at Southern University, who transferred from Rice. And, you know, unfortunately for him, basically, he didn't have the quarterback that he needed to kind of get him the ball in a position to be successful. So, you know, he's going to be in Legacy Bowl today, 3 p.m. the NFL Network. You know, Legacy Bowl is going to be a big thing, not just for him, but, you know, people like Taj Brown and Jalen Campbell, you know, other Southern University players and just HBCU players in general. So that's one thing, too. Another thing we didn't address on my brother's show, Jared 11 Green, we didn't address the fact that James Collies III, he is now the head football coach at FAMU. You know, so more than likely on his show tomorrow night at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, we'll probably address that, or I'll address it in the individual video here on my channel. And, you know, one last thing I also kind of want to point out, former Alcorn State head coach Fred McNair, he was supposed to get the head coaching job at Texas Southern, but they ended up pivoting and going in a different direction. Basically, he has now joined the Southern University coaching staff. You know, they didn't fully hash out like what capacity he's going to be in. You know, he was the offensive coordinator and head coach at Alcorn State. So it's a welcome addition to Southern University's coaching staff. And realistically speaking, more than likely at some point, probably next season, he's going to become a head coach again. I know some people are already rumbling saying that, hey, if Coach Terrence Graves, if he doesn't have like a certain degree of success immediately, basically administration is setting it up to where if Coach Terrence Graves doesn't have the success they want him to have, then basically Southern is going to be able to pivot and go to Fred McNair and eventually let him be their head coach because, you know, he won 2 SWAC championships. He lost in the Heritage Bowl. I'm sorry, not the Heritage Bowl. It was Heritage Bowl in the 90s. Now it's the Celebration Bowl. So basically, they feel like if Terrence Graves doesn't have the success that we think he should have, then more than likely at some point they're going to pivot to Fred McNair. So in HBCU realm, you know, and then one other thing, one last thing too, the reason why I was having this indecision but where to go, because the Legacy Bowl is today at 3 p.m. And in addition to that, Southern University boys basketball team, lately they've been hot as fish grease. They lost their first game in swag play like earlier this week. At one point, they in a swag they were like what 10-2. Now they're 10-3 in swag play. They're 16-13 overall. They play against Grambling today. So Southern girls play against Grambling, and then Southern boys play against Grambling. So when it came to this particular Saturday, I had it circled. Initially, I was gonna go to Legacy Bowl. Then I pivoted and said, "Now I'm gonna go to Southern versus Grambling basketball game." And then, when I really got to focusing on the show, I said, "Well, I can't go to Legacy Bowl. I'm not really gonna have the time I want to go to the Southern University basketball game, but I'll catch the basically the season finale next Saturday." So, from a content creator standpoint, like I say, I got the Legacy Bowl, you got Southern basketball at Phil G. Clark Activity Center, and Fred McNair joining Southern University coaching staff, and you have other just news around the HBCU realm and the SWAC and the MEAC and so on and so forth. So from an open discussion standpoint, that's the points I want to address.
Okay, Libby, is there something you want to respond with Coach about the HBCU with a new coaching staff?
No.
Okay, well, guys, let me ask you, what are your thoughts with the SEC commissioner lobbying for the a different recruiting schedule that it won't won't be in conflict with the bowl season and the playoff? Let's start with you, Ray.
I mean, I don't really have no opinion about it because I feel like that won't put a dent in the recruiting process. Like when a recruit comes, really doesn't determine, if a recruit is going to a university, especially in 2024 in this day and age. Money talks, baby. So it's 2024 with the NIL. That money talking, right? They're gonna come regardless. I feel like some recruits have not even visited the university yet and have committed to a university based strictly off of NIL. You know what I'm saying? And most recruits, make their visits, during like the season. Like let's just say LSU is playing Alabama in Death Valley. That's when you want all the recruits to come for that, LSU Alabama night game. You know what I'm saying? Like that. So it's like a lot of recruiting, like the things that really pull recruits in is like stuff during the season and stuff that's like financial and just, particular preferences. So I don't think that's really going to cause a dent in the recruiting process. So I don't think that's anything to cause a big uproar.
Coach, are you in agreement with Ray?
Ordinarily, in some instances, I will push back, but I'm in 100% agreement with King Ray in this particular instance. He's right. If you look at like Southern University in terms of their recruiting, typically they try to, in terms of the games they want to bring their recruits to, they try to get like a good atmosphere game, like maybe an Alcorn State home game, maybe a homecoming game. But from a revenue standpoint, you don't want to bring them to a game where, where the stadium is going to be empty. But at the same token, there are other games where you want as much room as you could because it's going to be a sellout, like the Jackson State game. Jackson State is going to bring a crowd. Alcorn State is going to bring a crowd. Homecoming is going to be packed. So you want to bring them to a game in which it's a great atmosphere. And then in addition to that, you want to bring them to a game where they can kind of see, hey, you can be a part of this. And it's the same with LSU, it's the same across college football all the way around. So Raymond is right. And then not only that, like he said, the NIL component of it. So more than anything, I don't think, for the most part, just kind of like the Victor Wimbiana topic earlier, is much to do about nothing.
Okay, guys, this is the last point I have a question on. So I know the NFL draft is coming up soon, and we have quite a bit of quarterbacks are at the top. What are 5 teams, Coach, that you feel like should be on that list of getting them a quarterback? Because I know quarterbacks have been shifted around in the NFL, or even trades have been made so that they can monopolize on getting that key piece they're missing. What are your thoughts, Coach?
That's an excellent question, Kay. I think the teams at the top of that list, of course, the team with the number one pick of the draft, that would be the Chicago Bears. Essentially, they're in a situation where do they want to keep Justin Fields or do they want to move on from him and take Caleb Williams, who's projected to be the number one pick of the draft? So they're at the top of that list. Also, you have a team like the Atlanta Falcons. They've been rumored to be in the market for Justin Fields or for Russell Wilson. Then you have another team like the Washington Commanders. They need a quarterback. You have another team like the Denver Broncos who's getting rid of Russell Wilson. And you have other teams who may or may not have their heir apparent in terms of the quarterback situation. So, you could go in a variety of different directions. I would say you would go the Bears 1, the Washington Commanders 2, the New England Patriots 3, the Atlanta Falcons 4, and the Denver Broncos 5. So I would say the Bears, the Commanders, the Patriots, the Falcons, the Broncos.
Ray, what are your thoughts? And before Ray, you give me your thoughts, let's give a shout out to Billy Bob and Jay Bar. Guys, thank you for tuning in. Ray, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I would agree with Coach. Like, a lot of teams need a quarterback. Like the Atlanta Falcons, they need a quarterback. Chicago Bears, they need a quarterback. I'm saying I would even say us, the New Orleans Saints, we want a new quarterback. we some people may say,
Without question, Ray, without question.
because some
Well,
some people would say that we don't necessarily need a quarterback, and I'm like, okay, you have an argument, but we want a new quarterback. Like we just definitely want a new quarterback. So I will put us up there, and I'm trying to remember if I remember this correctly, but I think I did see reports of the Saints potentially trying to get a quarterback.
yes.
Because
Well, no, the Saints did a restructuring deal with Dennis. I mean, not Dennis Allen. I'm sorry.
Derek Carr, yeah.
With their yes.
Yeah, I know that's a restructuring the deal, but I was saying how the Saints have like the 14th draft, the 14th the 14th pick of the first round, and I'm pretty sure I seen something where they said they might try and go get a quarterback if certain quarterbacks are still there, and I feel like the 14th spot that would be a perfect spot, for the Saints to draft, Michael Penix Jr. But there are a good bit of teams, that need a quarterback, and I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that this team needs a quarterback, and this might even be surprising because this team was just in the Super Bowl. I would say the 49ers may not need a quarterback, but they might want a quarterback. Brock Purdy is a very good game manager, but come on, bro, you need you a game changer at quarterback. So, like, you know what I'm saying? Even somebody like the Cowboys, but those are teams that will want a new quarterback, just like the Saints. Like us Saints fans, we want a new quarterback. But as far as I would say, teams like the Chicago Bears, the Atlanta Falcons, I'm trying to think of other teams who really struggle at quarterback this year. Um, I know Kirk Cousins got hurt for the Minnesota Vikings, but I think, they might want to start looking for a new quarterback and things of that ordeal. Or even the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders really don't have a solidified quarterback. And, that's quarterback is a position that you never want to just you've never seen a team that's overstacked with quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying? Like you could have a team that has like a lot of good receivers, a team that have a lot of good running backs, a lot of good tight ends or defensive players, but you've never seen a team that got too many good quarterbacks. It's hard enough to get one good quarterback at that. So, I feel like every NFL team knows better than to pass up on the opportunity at getting a good quarterback, which I feel like you have a a good decent amount of good quarterbacks in this draft with Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Michael Penix Jr., Drake May. Uh, I don't agree, but some, articles will say that Bo Nix is like, a top tier quarterback, but that's opinionated, but that's it.
Guys, let me ask you this.
Hold up, Kay. Let me kind of give a quick rebuttal. I agree with 95% of what King Ray said. In terms of the Saints, I don't think we just want. I think we need another quarterback because, truthfully speaking, I think with Derek Carr at the quarterback position and Dennis Allen at the head coaching position, I think we're kind of in a holding pattern. What I mean is we're just gonna kind of be stuck in the same situation over and over again. And many franchises, whether you in the NFL or you are in the NBA, basically either you won't be in championship contention or you won't be bad enough to where you could just blow the thing up and rebuild and go in a different direction. So from the standpoint of the Saints, I feel like we don't just want, I think we need another quarterback because no disrespect to Derek Carr, but he's not the guy. We need to move on. We need to go in a different direction. Even if we just keep him as a stopgap solution, then move in a different direction, I think we need to do that first and foremost. Second of all, what he said in terms of the Brock Purdy situation, we already established the fact that we agree because of the simple fact that, we had the Cam Newton discussion with him and Kimberly A. Martin, and basically she attacked his wear, what he was dressing, how he was dressed, as opposed to his actual points. And the points that he was making in terms of, if you look at the Dallas Cowboys, like King Ray was saying, the Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers, the Miami Dolphins, Tua, Purdy, and Dak, all of those guys are game managers, whereas somebody like Lamar Jackson is a game changer. Somebody like a Patrick Mahomes is a game changer. So if you see a guy like Jaden Daniels that's out there, truthfully speaking, I think people have different opinions on Caleb Williams. I think he looks the part in terms of, being having a strong arm, him being a pretty durable guy, but certain off the field things, I think he has all the makings of a potential franchise quarterback, but I don't think, he's as mentally tough as people might think. I don't think he's that guy, to be truthful. I think Jaden Daniels is, for me, if I was in that position, I would want him before I would want Caleb Williams. I agree with him on Bo Nix. I think Bo Nix is overrated, overhyped. I think somebody like Michael Penix Jr., I think teams kind of might look at his lack of size, even though we've seen somebody like Russell Wilson at his size have success. So at the end of the day, I think it's kind of a matter of personal opinion, when it comes to these, type of discussions. Of course, like he said, a team like a team like the Las Vegas Raiders, they probably won't look in that direction in terms of, trying to get another guy, the franchise quarterback in the future. Even my mindset of it would. I know we saw CJ Stroud, he had success this year, but me, I would have a good, decent stopgap guy. I would let him start their year while my rookie quarterback would sit and learn. And then after that next year, I would give him the keys to the franchise and tell him to go with it. Because Raymond is right. Having a friend, I disagree with him from the standpoint, you can never have too many good quarterbacks. I mean, if you have one franchise quarterback and you have like a real good backup, that's the ideal situation. But you don't be in a position where you tie up too much money at that one position. So you won't have a franchise quarterback and you won't have a very good backup quarterback that could kind of hold you over while your franchise guy might be potentially hurt for maybe about 4 or 5 weeks. But you don't want to have two franchise caliber quarterbacks, because if you do, you're going to have to get off of one of them. So I disagree with him from that standpoint. But everything else he said, he's 100% accurate in.
Okay, before we move on, I want one particular thing that, starting with you, coach, this salary cap increase that has gone forward, what do you think that means for the NFL? I should save this for later, but I have to get your answer right now, Coach.
I think it's a good thing because let's be truthful. If you're going to increase the salary cap, that means the players are going to get more money. But if the players get more money, you know the owners are going to make more money. So evidently, they must have some type of new TV deal in place. I mean, it's not that just so. So if the players are getting more money, that means, like, for example, the salary cap situation that the Saints were in. I pointed this out a few episodes back where, individuals that play franchise mode on Madden, basically, if you over the cap, what you would do is you would have some players restructure their contracts, or you would sign certain players to contract extensions, because the way NFL contracts are structured, they are progressive, meaning if I'm making 2 million this year, I might make 3 million next year, 4 million next year, 5 million next year, and my last year I will make 6 million. Or you could double that. Instead of by one increment of one, you could go by increments to two. So by restructuring Derek Carr's contract, the Saints, they relieved some of the salary cap issues they were having in terms of creating some space. But when you get to the point where you up the salary cap, then that is not going to be as much of an issue, even though you're going to have teams. Because see, the NFL isn't like the NBA. The NBA has a soft cap, meaning you could go over the cap and you go over the luxury tax, but you can't exceed a certain threshold. Whereas the NFL has a hard salary cap, meaning you can't cross that hard cap threshold. So I think it's going to be a good thing, the fact that the league is going to increase the cap space, and you're going to have an opportunity to give the players more money, and the team collectively as a whole get more money, and players individually get more money. But at the same token, if the players are getting more money, the owners are going to get more money also. So what that means is there's some type of new deal that's coming up, or they have some type of new TV deal in place, or whatever the case may be. So it's a domino effect. If there's more money for the players, then that also means there's more money for the owner. So in some way, shape, or form, one way, shape, or form, whether it's through TV deals or whatever the case may be, the owners will get more money also.
Okay, King Ray, what are your thoughts? What would be that one thing that the salary increase will do for each team, for individually as well as for as a whole?
I know definitely it's gonna help out the Saints. But like it's gonna help out everybody. People they're gonna be able to pay players more, meaning that they're gonna be able to get key players and stuff like that. And I was watching a video on Instagram, a reel, and how much the NFL is expanding. Don't be surprised if they continue to do this throughout the years. The NFL is making more money. The NFL got Taylor Swift backing them up now. LOL. The NFL season is opening in Brazil, so the NFL about to start getting that international money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they really about to get revenue coming in. So that means they're going to be able to afford players more. And I know this probably has nothing to do with it as well. Don't be surprised if you start seeing a lot more international players in the NFL. Because if you go, try to get these international countries to watch you, they're going to want to see their people in the game. Same thing with the NBA. NBA basketball is international, but you see a lot of international players in the NBA. But getting back to the salary cap focus of the question, man, yeah, this is gonna definitely be good, and I wouldn't be surprised if the NFL increases the amount of players that can be signed to a roster. I think the roster number is 54. I wouldn't be surprised if they, allowed it to go up to 60, because if you got all this money, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna want to pay people. You It's like if you have a lot of money, I feel like you're gonna have enough money to pay more players, you know what I'm saying, and have more people on your team. So but yeah, that's definitely good for the Saints. The Saints could, sign better players, but not just the Saints, for every NFL team. They could sign better players, give players more money, and help their particular team get out of cap salary debt.
Yeah, because I noticed that this season we saw an increased number of NFL teams whose quarterbacks were out. And hopefully that will give them space and opportunity to gain that backup quarterback that is needed to help out the quarterback while they're out. That sounds like that will be major for a lot of teams who's relying on just that one quarterback. So, guys, with that being said, let's move on to the Saints. And even though we touched on the Saints overall, um, how much do you think just the restructuring? Because I see that more than just Derek Carr's contract was restructured. And because I see there was one more player restructured recently, restructured his deal as well to, I guess, to free up some more money. Do you think the Saints have a ultimate goal? That's why they're trying to restructure as many players as they want. Well, not as many as they want, but restructure as many deals so they can get more individuals in the door. Or do you think they're trying to get people out of the door? Let's start with you, Ray.
Um,
So the question I'm asking, when you start to free up money, things start to change. Do you understand what I'm saying?
if you talking about like restructuring deals,
Yes.
what you mean? Like,
And with the salary increase, that it frees up more money. So you're going to get more individuals to come to your team because you have the money available. But do you think they want, like example, we have some veteran players that have been with the Saints um, a number of years that may have not been performing as up to par as they have in the past. Do you think that is more of an opportunity to get them to exit the building versus to get those key pieces into play to make their team that solid team that they need to go to the Super Bowl?
King Ray, if you don't mind, let me answer this question for K.
all right, yeah.
Uh, I think in this particular situation, a lot of people don't realize the Saints were dead last in the NFL in terms of how deep they were in salary cap in terms of debt. The Saints were $53.7 million over the hard cap that I talked about earlier.
Wow.
So the reason why they restructured so many deals, and I mean at one point it was up to $83 million with projected salary coming in. So that's why they restructured so many deals. So in terms of how much debt they were in, the Saints were dead last in the NFL. So that's the reason why the Saints restructured so many deals in terms of they restructured Derek Carr deal, they restructured like a number of players' deals. So they weren't restructuring his deal and other players' deal so they could bring in more players. They were restructuring deals to get out of debt. I mean, they were in the red, so they're still not in the black. They still have to restructure deals. They might have to trade some players, might have to do whatever, you know. But at the end of the day, that was the reason why they did what they did. They didn't restructure his deal and other players' deal just to bring in other players. They restructured the deals to basically clear cap space. So that's the reason why they did it. And more than anything, you know, they I know they probably gonna work some salary cap gymnastics. You know, this one thing Rude Dog and I we used to do a lot when we played Madden and franchise mode head to head. So what's gonna happen is they probably gonna get under the cap in terms of the under the salary cap, you know, the hard cap, and they probably just gonna have enough money to maybe bring in a couple like lower caliber free agent players, and they're gonna have enough money to sign all of their draft picks, and then they might have like maybe like a few million left over, but for the most part, they won't have a whole lot to play with, you know.
Okay. Are it would there be any topic that you need to touch on, Coach, with the NFL?
Well, you know, I just kind of want to hear King Ray's thoughts on like the salary cap issues that the Saints were having. What are your thoughts on like the Saints having such cap issues, King Ray?
Um, I mean, I feel like the Saints gonna always do what they do now. Like that. I feel like that's kind of it's kind of like routine, like the salary cap stuff, like being in the salary cap debt and all that stuff. Like, Mickey Loomis does what he does. He converts all that debt money into bonus money and stuff like that. And especially with the example you was giving with you and Rude Dog, which I would do on Madden and stuff like that. And all y'all just doing is giving Mickey Loomis more room to do what he do. So I feel like this is not gonna have a negative effect for the Saints. I feel like it's gonna have more of a positive effect for the Saints, because they could go out and sign more players and stuff like that and whatnot. And I don't think salary cap issues would necessarily get players to leave unless like another team could offer them more money. But I feel like the Saints have a rare culture where a lot of the players really don't care about the money. They just they want that locker room chemistry. And I feel like that's something that particularly Saints players and that culture in the Saints locker room, that's what they prioritize, familiarity with each other rather than go and chase a bag like most other NFL players.
Okay, Coach, let's hit that fact or cap with you real quick. Can you start us off?
All right. So in terms of, you know, while we on the Saints, factor cap, you know, I'm gonna let King Ray go, and then I'm gonna see what K think. Do you think the Saints are gonna be in the playoffs this upcoming season? Factor cap.
Um, if the Atlanta Falcons do not get Justin Fields, if the Bucks be the Bucks that they was towards the end of the season, and if Bryce Young still continues to be Bryce Young, he was at the end of the season, then yes. One thing I could say about Derek Carr in those last couple of weeks, I don't know if it was just the inconsistency or what, but it seemed like, he started to find like his favorite targets. Like he was going to AT Perry like dog. Like AT Perry was looking like a monster. I'm like, all right, you know what I'm saying? Then, he started connecting with Shaheed and Olave again. If you could, get that to its fullest potential, get that chemistry with his receivers down pat. We got a new offensive coordinator. We basically got a whole new offensive coordinating staff, new quarterback coach and stuff like that. So hopefully, they could put together some stuff. And I think John Gruden is still coming to the Saints to help out as well. So, we got all this help and, we didn't change the scenery around as far as the offensive coaching. So, the defense stay the same, and if the offense could progress, ain't no excuse for us not to win a division. You know what I'm saying? We should have won a division last season, but this year we definitely gotta win a division. So I think it's definitely possible, that we can make the playoffs by winning a division.
What are your thoughts,
Well,
K?
Coach, I to be truthfully honest with you, with the decisions Dennis Allen is making, I think it's a cap.
Wow. I mean, I think you kind of spot on, from my standpoint. I think as long as you have Dennis Allen as your head coach, and as long as you have Derek Carr as your quarterback, I think you kind of limited in how far you can go. Even if you do make the playoffs, you'll probably be one and done by that point.
Yeah, because Dennis Allen isn't making the best decisions and he doesn't stand behind the decisions he makes. Uh, how do you expect your team to be as a whole when someone makes a mistake and you don't support them or show that support? You throw them under the bus. That's not a loving, compassionate environment. You take that behind closed doors.
I agree 100%. 100%. So
Okay, King Ray, do you have a fact or a cap?
Uh, for factor cap. I mean, you already asked this. I will ask about the Pelicans. Factor cap. I ask this. Do y'all think the Pelicans can make it to the Western Conference Finals?
We're gonna start with you, Coach.
Honestly, I'm gonna say Cap. I think they have all, and from a talent standpoint, I think they have all the requisite pieces. I think the two biggest issues they have a lack of experience, and then two, like they're two franchise cornerstone pieces are injury prone. So at any second, Brandon Ingram, Brandon Ingram could be hurt for a significant point of time. Zion Williamson could be also. So I think that's the only reason why they can't. That's the only reason why I would say that's Cap. They can't make it as far as they really would need to, because those two particular individuals can get hurt at any point. Then in addition to that, they're still a young team. Even though Bi has been in the NBA for years, he's only been in the playoffs once. So they're still a young team, relatively speaking, when you compare them to teams like, the Denver Nuggets, the LA Clippers, so on and so forth. So I think it's capped for now, but I think at some point they're going to break through that glass ceiling and they can eventually make it to the Western Conference Finals, eventually win the NBA championship if the law says the same.
Ray, I think it is Cap as well because there are too many pieces that needs to be in alignment to get the Pelicans where they need to be. I just feel like they are close, but they're not close enough. The Pelicans, they have great talent, great potential, but they're not yet there yet. Um, I will say with my fact and cap. Do you find that the Pelicans will gain another key piece like a Zion, like because we have had Zion, we have had AD, we have had some great guys here, but they haven't exceeded expectations like when they went other places. So do you think Zion will eventually move on and exceed expectation elsewhere? Let's talk with you, Ray.
You asking that as far as this season?
No, just
Oh,
it eventually. So I say in the next 5 years, fact or cap.
I would say fact. Within the next 5 years, you definitely could acquire, a key piece that could tremendously help you. So I say fact.
So you think we will get that key piece just like AD has been with the Lakers and
Yeah.
so forth, so on.
Yes. Yes.
Coach,
Uh, I say fact that Zion probably is going to eventually, the same way Chris Paul moved on, the same way Anthony Davis moved on. I think at some point Zion, in his mind, he gonna move on to what he feel are greener pastures. And I don't think the Pelicans are gonna find another like cornerstone franchise caliber player until like Zion moves on and then they become bad for a little while. And then they're gonna be able to eventually get another player that they could build a franchise around. So I think it's fact. I think it's fact in both regards.
okay, we're gonna do this one more time around, Coach. Your fact or cap?
All right. My fact that Cap is, you know, I'm gonna let King Ray go first because I don't know you really know in terms of the NFL draft. Caleb Williams is gonna be the number one overall pick, King Ray.
I would say I feel like that would be facts. I feel like Caleb Williams would be the number one overall pick in this draft.
I I'm gonna say cap. I think that individual that you are not expecting will move to that forefront because usually that person.
Hold on, K. So in other words, what you're saying is you think Jaden Daniels is gonna jump to the number one spot. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes, yes. I hate to say it like that. That's why it's always the one you don't expect is pick number one.
I ain't gonna lie, kid. That was an excellent take.
Ray, fact or cap? Go ahead, start us off.
Uh, fact or cap that this one mainly for you, coach. That Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney will go to a decision.
I'm gonna say Cap. I think Devin the Dream Haney is gonna break down Ryan Garcia. I mean, I know he's gonna be coming in at the full 140-pound limit. He's gonna be able to fully rehydrate. No rehydration restrictions like Tank put on him. I don't think he's gonna make it to the distance. I know a lot of people say that Devin Haney didn't have power when he was at 135, but the fact that he's moved up in weight, you saw how our hometown guy Regis, how he looked after the fight. I think Regis is more durable than Ryan Garcia. So I think Devin is gonna stop him, gonna take him into deep waters and drown him. I don't think it's gonna go to decision. I think that is cap. I think Devin the Dream Haney is gonna stop Ryan Garcia. I think that's a fact in that regard.
Okay, and I don't have an answer for that because boxing isn't my thing. Now, if you would have caught me in the Mayweather phase, or if you would have caught me maybe in
The Roy, the Roy Jones
yeah,
Jr.
you
phase.
knew what the next person I was gonna say. Roy was my dude. So if you'd have caught me in that time, that was my thing. So my fact or cap, do you think, and I hate to say it like this, but do you think Russell Wilson will end up on his behind, as in he doesn't have a home team to go to once Sean Payton finishes with him? Let's start with you, coach. A fact or cap?
I think that's big cap. I think the success that he had in the NFL, even though he struggled in Denver, it kind of seems as if Pete Carroll's system would allow him to have the success he had. And maybe he wasn't a game changer. Maybe he was more of a game manager than anything. I think the fact that so many teams need quarterbacks, I think even if you get him on a slightly reduced deal in terms of what he would expect, I don't think he's going to end up on his behind. I think he's going to land on his feet. He's going to land somewhere, whether it's the Las Vegas Raiders, whether it's the Atlanta Falcons, whether it's the
New
New England
Orleans
Patriots.
Saints.
I mean, honestly, the way he played in Denver, I don't think I would welcome him in New Orleans. I think we need to pivot and go in a different direction with a younger guy that's going to be the eventual heir apparent and hopefully the eventual Drew Brees type franchise type quarterback that we need. So in terms of him ending up on his behind, I think he's going to be an eventual starting quarterback somewhere here in the league. Even if he's a stopgap solution, he's going to land on his feet. He's going to become a starting quarterback this upcoming season.
Coach, I would disagree because I think Russell Wilson will be a great piece in exchange for. I'm sorry, Derek Carr, but uh, I think he will be a better fit in New Orleans than Derek Carr. But hey, who am
I,
I?
I mean, truthfully speaking, I think you right in the regard of if you could put the type of defense that he had around him in Seattle, if you could put the type of
Correct.
if you could put the type of running game you had around him in Seattle with beast mode. I mean, you got to realize he had a great defense, he had a great running game, and Pete Carroll was light years in terms of a head coach ahead of Dennis Allen. So he wouldn't have all those requisite pieces surrounding him in New Orleans that he had surrounding him in Seattle. So that's the reason why I say. And then all that you have to look at the fact that he's older. He's not the guy that he once was. I know some people try to point at Sierra, kind of dragging him down. Uh, I'm not really going to point in that direction because I don't know what's going on with him and her behind the scenes as his wife. He seems to be happier than he was in his younger years. Some people say the fact that maybe she might be an energy vampire, or maybe the fact that he's happy, he's not as hungry as he was when he was younger. Who knows? But even with that being said, I think if you could put all those pieces around him, I think he'll be good. But I don't think the Saints are in position to do everything that Seattle was able to do with him in that time frame.
Ray, what are your thoughts?
As
Fact
far
or cap? Russell Wilson, once Sean Payton finishes with him, he will be out on his butt with
cap,
no.
cap, cap. That's cap, man. Somebody gonna take Russell Wilson, dog. When you look at, imagine if the Broncos let Russell Wilson go right now. You don't think a team like the Atlanta Falcons, the Chicago Bears, the Las Vegas Raiders would pick him up? So it's always gonna have that team that's like got a backup quarterback for their starting quarterback. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you will want Russell Wilson in that case. Not saying that
Yes.
Russell Wilson will take you to the promised land, but it's better than what you got, you know?
So you think in that case they will be settling if you said they would not take he would not take them to the promised land,
No, I
but
wouldn't.
it will be better than what they have. Do you think that would be settling?
No, that won't be settling. Anytime you progress, you don't settle. So you taking the next step up from the. That's like I would say with the Saints. Like as much as you could say you don't like Derek Carr, we progressed that quarterback. Like we went from having somebody like Andy Dalton at quarterback, somebody like what's your boy name?
Taysom Hill,
No, not Taysom Hill, your other boy.
Jameis Winston.
No, not James Winston, the other dude, Caucasian guy.
All I remember is Andy Dalton and Taysom Hill and Teddy Bridgewater and James Winston and
Oh, it was the guy before that, man. It was the guy in the 2020 season.
Oh, you talking about the one who ended up going to Carolina and now he's
You gotta call his name.
uh I'm gonna look it up real quick.
all he was a backup though, man. I
That's
mean,
that's what I'm trying to say. The
no,
Saints
no,
have
no.
a
I
bunch of
know.
backups at
I,
quarterback.
I understand what you're saying, but you got to realize with injuries, that was the only reason why he was in the situation he was in. The Saints brought him in as a backup, and once James got hurt, because if James wouldn't have got hurt, the Saints would have been a playoff team that year. But once he got hurt, they brought him in. Yeah, he a career backup. I can't think his name, but I know what you're saying.
Uh,
Okay,
yeah,
so I have Teddy Bridgewater, Jameson Winston, Trevor Simeon.
yeah,
Trevor
Trevor
Simeon.
Simeon. Yeah,
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 that's
that's
him.
what I'm thinking of, Trevor Simeon. So yeah, that pretty much was the point I was trying to prove. Like, you go from like a bunch of backups to somebody that's like an average quarterback. I wouldn't say that's settling. Like you still taking a step up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest.
So Russell Wilson, in his point at the point in his career right now, you would say he's an average quarterback. So I would rather have an average quarterback than a below average quarterback. Like I'm gonna ask you this: you rather get a D, a F, or a C on your test? You rather get a C? A C is average, but it's a better grade than a D or a F.
Yeah, and I'm gonna be honest, with you, I have to disagree with you on that, Raymond, because truthfully speaking, I think,
You rather get the F. You rather get the
I
D.
think, no, no, no. You said if you, I think in a Russell Wilson analogy you made, I think that would be progression if you're a team like the Las Vegas Raiders. But when you're talking about the Saints, you would say that Derek Carr is progression. I would disagree. I'm gonna be truthful. I think James Winston at his absolute best and Derek Carr at his absolute best, I think is a lateral move at best. So I don't think it's progression. I think you just made a lateral move, if anything. You didn't get a promotion.
All
You
right,
just got a
I feel like Derek Carr at his best is he'll edge out Jameis at his best.
I disagree
That's
with
just
you.
me personally.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I think everybody entitled to their own opinion. I think you and Rude Dog. That's why y'all, when the Saints was saying, "Hey, they're getting Derek Carr," y'all was like, "Oh yeah, it's an upgrade, dude." At best, this at best, you went from a C to a C plus, maybe B minus at best. But if anything, to me, you went from a C to a C. So I mean, and then truthfully speaking, like I said, if you look at the year that the Saints were gonna make the playoffs, if James would have never got hurt, I mean, he was 6-2 as the starting quarterback that year. So when he got hurt, things just kind of unraveled and went by the wayside for him. And if you look at last year, early in the year, he had the traverse fracture. The fact that they went with Andy Dalton, to me, it kind of showed that Dennis Allen had something personal against him more than anything. So at
Right.
the end of the day, I'm gonna just kind of
But
be truthful. I feel like Derek Carr, if anything, I feel like Dennis Allen wanted Derek Carr more than anything. And
yeah,
I think more than anything, Derek Carr is his guy. But in terms of people making it seem like who we got such a great quarterback. Like, no, he at
No,
best
we
he
not.
at
We
best he's a lateral guy, a lateral move. And truthfully speaking, when I think of the Saints, I think of Drew Brees. I think I know we're not even talking about prime Drew Brees, but if you're talking about twilight, like noodle arm Drew Brees, like late in his career, if you
coach.
compare Derek Carr to that version of Drew Brees, I still would rather have that
We know
version of
that,
Drew
coach.
Brees.
We
Huh?
not calling Derek. We not calling Derek Carr great. That's not the like. I would never sit up here and call Derek Carr great. What I'm saying is, I felt like I'm like Derek Carr is an upgrade. I don't care how
Yeah.
much of an upgrade he is from
Yeah.
James Winston. I feel like he is an upgrade, and it's like you could look at it like this. You could say a 70% is a C, and a 73% is a C as well. But a 73% could help you pass the class the way a 70 wouldn't. You might have
Well,
a 69 in
well,
the class. That 73 might get you to that 71% you need to pass the class. And the analogy I'm trying to make is that little bit more of experience that Derek Carr has might be able to lead the Saints better than a little less experience that Jameis Winston has. If that makes sense.
yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that grading scale you just gave, you clearly talking about on a college scale. Myself, I'm a middle school coach and I'm a middle school teacher. So a 70 and a 73, those are both D grades on my level. But the
Right.
point I'm trying to make is if you look at what Derek Carr did this full season when he went 9-8, and if you look at, even though we can't say, hey, the Saints would have kept rolling in the same direction when Jameis Winston was the starting quarterback, he was
You
six
went
and
five
two.
and two.
Well, you and Rudolph say 5-2. I'll say 6-2
Oh,
because they still won that game, even though he
he got
didn't play
hurt.
most of the game. He
Oh, I
got hurt.
agree.
But the point I'm trying to make is, I mean, if you paying that out to a whole season, I think at best, I think you probably end up with about the same record. So as far as I'm concerned, about the same quarterback.
Yeah, I agree.
So that whole point of people making it seem like Derek Carr was such an upgraded quarterback. Man, like I say, if anything, you gave Derek Carr more money to do
The
what
same thing.
James Winston could have did. You know, the whole Kevin Samuels thing people used to talk about average at best. I think that's what what this progression is. If you saying, hey, he an upgrade, he a slight upgrade at best. That's the point I'm trying to make. So even if he is an upgrade, he a slight upgrade, and he not gonna take you from a C to a B. He gonna take you from a C to a C plus at best. So that's the point I'm trying to make. I don't think he upgrade. I think he a lateral move more than anything. He not a promotion. He just you working in this office to work in the office over there. So I don't see the hype.
Guys, as we close, let me ask you both, starting with you, Ray. What do you think will happen with Jameson, uh, with the Saints, or even just moving forward? Do you think they will trade him, or he's just
Yeah,
gonna
they
sit
let him,
and
they let him
just
go.
collect dust because they're not using him
They letting
to his
James.
ability?
They gonna let James go. That was clear what transpired in the last week of the season. They don't be surprised if James Winston leaves, which is why you seen him enjoying himself at Mardi Gras. He's enjoying the last couple of days he got left in New Orleans.
Coach, what are your thoughts?
I'm gonna be truthful. I think he was kind of loyal to the Saints, to a fault. I know Rude Dog was like, well, if he was so hot on the open market, while he came back to the Saints and whoop the whoop. And I agree with him from that perspective. Maybe he didn't have the market value that I thought he had. But truthfully speaking, uh, like I was telling Raymond earlier, you can't have two franchise quarterbacks, or you can't have two quarterbacks, even if they're not franchise. You can't have two quarterbacks on the same level unless they both like backup type quarterbacks in terms of like maybe the Patriots type situation with with the boy named Matt Jones and what the Zappy boy name is, what Zappy first name is, Raymond? Bailey Zappi. So if you got Bailey Zappi and you got Matt Jones, then yeah, you can have two quarterbacks on the same level. But if you got two franchise caliber quarterbacks and you got two starting level quarterbacks, I don't think that's really gonna work because somebody's gonna be slighted. And truthfully speaking, I mean, I hate to say it, especially when they got to a point where Derek Carr was like complete trash during the course of the season. I felt like James gave him a better chance to win. So in that particular scenario, I feel like that the Saints would be better served if they just let him go. You done already like hedge your bets. I ain't gonna say you hedge your bets. I'm gonna say you put your money on Carr. So since you put money on Carr, then you just might as well let Jameis Winston go elsewhere. And he said this when he was enjoying his Mardi Gras, like Rambo was saying, like, if it's up to him, he would stay in New Orleans. And I kind of see that. But more than anything, I think he needed to do was in the best interest of his career. Even if he kind of like a stopgap guy, like I said earlier. And for those individuals that don't know what stopgap mean is this the guy that you have while you draft your next quarterback. Maybe he could play this season. And then the next season you go with the guy that you drafted, whether it's like a Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels or Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix or whoever. If you draft one of those type of guys, you bring a veteran guy like Jameis, let him start for the season. Then after that, you move on to your franchise guy. So I think even if he in that type of situation, I think Jameis Winston would be better off if he left New Orleans because it's clear that he never going to be the starting quarterback. Dennis Allen passed. Just think about it. Dennis Allen passed him over for Andy Dalton of all people. Now, at one point, he was a red rifle. At this point in his career, he was the red pellet gun. And you still was starting Andy Dalton over Jameis Winston. So to me, it just kind of go to show you he never was sold on Jameis Winston. To me, I think when Sean Payton, I think he probably got maybe the best out of Jameis Winston as an NFL player more than anybody else. So at the end of the day, I think Jameis Winston needs to move on and he needs to go somewhere and become a starter because I don't think Derek Carr is better than him or even that much better than him where he really should be starting over him.
And I agree, Coach. You made a great point. I think he needs to move on and do what's best for his career and for himself. So, guys, let's move on. And I love that. Are there any comments, questions, anything you have to close us out? Let's start with you, Ray.
No, I don't have any.
Tell the people how they can follow you, how they can keep in contact with you moving forward.
Follow me on IG King Ray and on subscribe to my YouTube Ray Swank 225. Appreciate everybody that watched today. Like, comment, and subscribe to Coach's YouTube channel.
Coach.
Well, of course, I don't have any closing words or closing thoughts, but however, I will say you could catch me at Coach 67 Sports TV on all social media platforms. On Facebook, I have a Coach 67 group. On Instagram, on TikTok, on X, which is formerly known as Twitter. However, primarily here on YouTube. Also, check out my baby Nada Nay on YouTube at NADANAY. No, I'm sorry, NAYDANAY. Here on YouTube, Nada Nay. Also, check out my brother Brent Fox. He also covers boxing and NFL football. And check out myself, the brother Brent Fox. I don't know, maybe somebody like a Trill Will might drop in. Of course, the brother Cadillac Red, the brother Jay Good, brother Big Joe Townsend. Check us out on my brother channel tomorrow, Shadow 11 Green, where we talk about HBCU football. Right now, the Legacy Bowl is on, so more than likely we're going to cover the Legacy Bowl on his channel tomorrow at 7:30 Central. 7:30 Central Standard Time, 7:30 p.m. tomorrow night. Also, I'm probably going to drop a video going more in depth and more in detail, talking about the Fred McNair situation, how you come into Southern, and I'm gonna, talk about, Southern University basketball, and more than likely I'll probably be in person next weekend at Southern University's last Saturday night game next weekend. But I hope y'all enjoyed the show. We appreciate everybody that's been rocking with us, everybody showing us love, everybody showing us support. We'll catch y'all on the rebound. Y'all have a blessed, phenomenal evening. Peace and blessings. Hope y'all have a blessed weekend and hope y'all have a blessed work week.
Okay, guys, as you know, this is the last Saturday in February, Black History Month, and we're going to close out with another Black History quote. from one of the greats, Kobe Bryant. He said the most important thing is to try and inspire people so that they can be great in whatever they want to do. So, family, thank y'all for watching. Please like, subscribe, follow, share. Let everyone know that, hey, Bayou Sports Talk is what's in. Love you. Thank you. Talk to you next time. Bye bye.